Welcome to Marauders Weekly on NBC North Dakota Sports. Marauders Weekly is your exclusive home to University of Mary Marauder athletics all season long. Football, basketball, volleyball, and more. You'll see it right here on Marauders Weekly.
Another busy week for you, Mary, as fall sports really got started, and the football team had its home opener against Upper Iowa. Welcome to Marauders Weekly. I'm Marissa DiCandido, and the Peacocks came to the MDU Resources Community Bowl with a 1-0 record after beating Northern last weekend. You, Mary, meanwhile, looking to avenge its loss to Sioux Falls. So joining me now, we have head coach Josh Kotelnicki, as always, and today we have junior linebacker Sean Fullwider, who is from Watford City. So, Sean, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, well, Coach, we'll start with you today. Going up against an Upper Iowa defense that only gave up 6 points against Northern. You were starting true freshman Nick McCann in there at quarterback. Offensively, just what did you guys work on going into this game this weekend?
Well, we really tried to simplify things in our run game. Upper Iowa has a good player at every level of their defense. On the defensive line, they have a couple really good players, and they move them all over the place. So we wanted to make sure in the run game that we were simple, and what we were doing was going to hold up against that. And then in the passing game, we wanted to make sure we really made the game as simple as we could for Nick and kind of break the field in half and move the pocket a lot.
Now, Sean, defensively, a tough test last week against Sioux Falls. So what were you guys really working on to try and bounce back this weekend against Upper Iowa?
I know at the beginning of the week, Kotelnicki came at us with a phrase called 9 strong, and that really hit home with us, and know that every position group on our team really needed to step up and make sure that we're getting our individual work done and make sure all of our assignments that we need to do were up to par. And so, yeah.
Well, defense definitely came out strong in this one. Let's take a look at the first half highlights from the Community Bowl. Starting out, Marauders defense came to play early, 2nd and 9 for the Peacocks, and Jacob Parker lays out there to break up that pass. That was one of 2 pass breakups for him on the day. Still in that first Peacocks possession, 3rd and long, and here Sean Fullwider comes flying in for the sack. That's a loss of 6 yards. And Sean, you guys really putting the pressure on defensively. What was the game plan like here in the first half?
We wanted to really come at him aggressive, make sure that we're getting to the quarterback quick to give him less time to make a decision and get the ball out.
Well, definitely did that. Tied 0-0 after the first quarter. Continued to be a defensive battle in the second quarter. 3rd and 5. Marauders sending everybody in. Landon Smith gets a hand in there, but it's Sean Fullwider once again taking down Dimitri Morales with a little bit of help there. Upper Iowa with a chance to get on the board in their next possession. It's Brady Bushel attempting a 42-yard field goal, and that will bounce off the left upright. No good, so still 0-0 with 7 minutes left in the half. But the Peacocks would take advantage of a scoring opportunity in their next drive. 1st and 10 from the 14. Morales finds Jared Edmonds, who makes a nice one-handed grab for the score. Peacocks take a 7-0 lead, and the Marauders look like they might be able to answer on the kickoff thanks to senior captain Adam Warnetsky. He had a very solid game for you, Mary. Receives it at the 7. He would take it 43 yards to give the Marauders some momentum, but they could not capitalize on that, going 3 and out in their next possession. With just under 3 minutes to play in the half, things would start to unravel a little bit for you, Mary. Punting was actually much improved in this game until this one blocked, and the Peacocks get it near the 50. They would end up at 1st and goal and go to the same spot as the last touchdown drive. Fade to Edmonds. He has his 2nd touchdown reception of the game. That would make it 14-0 Upper Iowa, and they weren't done for the half. Starting this drive with 27 seconds on the clock, they finished with a 31-yard touchdown pass to, who else? Jared Edmonds. Now, Coach, we talked about this at halftime, but what was the breakdown here defensively at the end of the first half?
Well, I think we just got put in some bad field positions here a couple times, but to be honest, I expect more of our defensive guys than to just cave, and I don't think it wasn't because of lack of effort. They have a mobile quarterback. He ran all over the place. We didn't get off blocks up front. We rushed 4 guys, and a couple times here, not just on this clip, on some other clips too before the half, he moved around and found an open receiver, and this hurt us all day. This, I was happy with what we did against the run game, but in the passing game, we gave up too many big plays.
Yep. Well, at the half, the score was Upper Iowa leading the Marauders 21-0. And one thing you didn't see much there in the first half was offensive highlights from you, Mary. So, Coach, where did you see the offense kind of struggling there in the first half?
Well, outside of the first 2 drives, I think the first 2 drives we came out, we moved the ball. We started our own 35 and moved it into the plus territory and then ended up punting a couple times. But outside of that, I don't think that we did much offensively. So we only had 30 yards passing at half. We had, I think, something like 50 yards rushing. And that's just not going to get it done. So we decided to change quarterbacks at halftime. I don't think there's anything that Nick McCann wasn't doing. It's just sometimes you're left with a choice as a head coach of we've got to change something, and this is the only thing we can really change. So we went with Caleb in the second half.
Yeah, and we will see a little bit about that in the second half highlights coming up. But first, now, Sean, you guys started to get burned a little bit in the secondary there at the end. As Coach said, you guys did a good job front seven controlling the run game. But what changes did you make as a defensive unit going into the second half?
We were definitely making some little mistakes that really into some big plays for them towards the end of the first half, and we needed to make sure that we really came back and cleaned up those small mistakes so they weren't getting any opportunities to make any more of those big plays on us.
What are some of specifically those little mistakes that you guys had to change?
Just making sure coverage-wise that we were getting to correct spots where they were beating us at, and for the defensive line and linebackers to get to the ball a little bit quicker, to not let the QB have so much time to let those receivers make a play and get open, so our secondary wasn't so much hanging out in the line. So.
Well, we will see how the Marauders turn things around a little bit in the second half coming up after the break here on Marauders Weekly. Welcome back to Marauders Weekly while we're talking football. So we have head coach Josh Kotelnicki here, and today we have junior linebacker Sean Fullwider. Now, we talked a little bit about the strong defensive start that UMary had against Upper Iowa, but slipped at the end of the first half, letting up 21 points going into halftime. They changed some things offensively, though, in the second half, and we'll take a look at those right now in the second half highlights. Now, Upper Iowa would pick up right where it left off in the second half, 2nd and 10 from the 23. Morales finds Brandon Rogers up the middle, and Peacocks now up 28-0. And as Coach said before, Caleb Buck now under center for the Marauders, sophomore out of Arizona, and he throws that one just behind his target, so that's an interception for the Peacocks. Tate Thompson comes up with it and takes it back 34 yards. And at the opposite end, Fullwider here continuing his impressive day on 2nd and 1. He almost comes up with the interception, but at least breaks up that pass. Marauders would hold Upper Iowa to a field goal. Now, Sean, a big stop for you guys there. What did you guys try to change there in the red zone defensively in the second half?
We just wanted to make sure that we were staying tight on our receivers and make sure that we got a good run-pass keys to know exactly what they were coming at us with.
Well, the next Marauders drive, 4th and 5. They fake the punt. Coleman Olivas, the true freshman from California, finds some holes, runs with it, gets some nice blocks downfield from Preston Tesher, and he would go 73 yards for the Marauders' first score of the day. Coach, I talked to Coleman after the game. He said this was something you guys had worked on in practice. So was it in the plan to break it out yesterday?
We had a bunch of stuff on special teams ready to break out, and to be honest, when you're down 31-0, what do you got to lose? So we ran it from inside our own 35, and I didn't think we were going to score a touchdown. I was pretty sure we get a first down. So, but great play by Coleman, and also good play by a lot of guys up front blocking-wise.
Well, Ben Jolliffe would run in a 2-point conversion after that to make it 31-8, and the UMary defense would continue to come up with big stops. 2nd and 9, Mandan's finest, Brady Zittelman knocks the ball out for an incomplete pass, and that will force 3rd and long and another Marauder stop. To the 4th quarter now, offense finally finding some rhythm. 3rd and 4, Caleb Buck hits Joey Vrooman up the middle for a first down to continue the drive, and then on 2nd and 10, it's Buck to Nick Cottrey out of Bismarck High. Cottrey jukes and loses a defender, but he's taken down at the 3-yard line. An 8-yard pickup for UMary, and on the very next play, Buck would hit Ben Jolliffe on the slant. Touchdown Marauders, 31-14 at this point, and UMary once again deciding to go for the 2-point conversion. This time Jolliffe throwing up a little lob to Tom Johnson. That's good to make it 31-16. Coach, we're going to go back to that touchdown. How did you see Caleb settle into his role at quarterback in the 4th quarter?
Well, I think offensively, a number of guys came of age, I think, a little bit in that second half, and Caleb did a good job distributing the ball, but I think overall the entire offensive unit performed individually at a slightly better level.
Well, defense forces the Peacocks to go 3 and out on the next UMary possession. 4th and 10, and Buck finds Ben Jolliffe for a 13-yard gain and a first down, but on 4th and 6, Marauders looking to score, and that pass is intercepted in the end zone once again by Thompson. UMary defense still coming up strong though. Landon Smith just lays out the intended receiver on 2nd and 10, but it wouldn't be enough for UMary. The final score here from the Community Bowl, 34-16 Upper Iowa. Caleb Buck finished 27 for 44, 216 yards, 1 touchdown, and those 2 picks that we saw. Sean Fullwider had 8 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 2 of those tackles were for loss. Preston Tesher also finished with 8 tackles on the day. And Caleb Buck, after the game, said that they have some things to work on coming up this week going into their game against Mankato.
Practice was better than last week's, which I completely agree with, and I think the score shows that. But we got to keep on sticking to what we've been doing. We're a younger team. It's going to take us a little bit of time, which isn't an excuse, but everything we can do day by day to get that 1% better that our coaches always try to teach us and get that one thing that they want us to do better every day. If we can do that every day and keep striving, I think we'll keep on competing more and we'll start getting some W's here.
A lot of optimism there from Caleb Buck. Well, Coach, in that second half, some aggressive play calling offensively. The fake punt, going for it pretty much every 4th down. You kind of alluded to it there during the highlights that at that point, not much to lose. But what was the strategy there in the second half with that play calling?
Well, you know, the strategy from the head coach was that we're playing to win. So if that means that it's 4th and 10 on our own 35-yard line, we're going for it. So, you know, we're going to coach our guys for 60 minutes. We expect our guys to play for 60 minutes. I don't care what the results, if it's already been determined or not. We want our kids to play like they don't know what the score is, like they don't know how much time is left. So we have to coach it the same way. So I thought Coach Belmore did a good job in the second half calling an aggressive game. It was throw, which is all we could really do at that point. For us to improve offensively, we're going to have to be able to run the football more effectively, though. So that's going to be a big key going forward.
Speaking of running the football, what did you see from Adam Warnetsky in this game, getting the bulk of the carries there?
Well, I thought we saw assertiveness. I thought we saw a guy that's tough to tackle. I think we saw a guy that hit the hole hard. And, you know, it's a little thing, but I think we saw a guy that fell forward, you know, after he made contact. The pile went backwards. So Adam's one of our best players. He's one of our best leaders. Zach did a good job, too. Zach touched the ball numerous times, more as a receiver a little bit on Saturday, but Adam had a good game.
Now, Sean, defensively, 515 yards of total offense from Upper Iowa, but 446 of those were passing yardage. So what do you guys need to improve upon moving forward defensively?
We need to really make sure that we're covering the pass a lot better, getting to the QB a little bit quicker than we have been recently, so they don't have more time to let these receivers make moves and get open.
For you specifically in this game, you seem to be getting to the quarterback a lot more than, you know, the first game or even games from last year that I've seen you playing. So what were any changes made for you specifically in the defensive kind of schemes and everything?
I think overall the defensive plan going into the game was to be a little bit more aggressive, and that allowed opportunities for myself and other players to be in positions where we could make a couple plays, and we were able to capitalize on them.
Well, Coach, next week heading to Minnesota State, #1 team in the country. Obviously, going to be a tough game. What's the plan for practice this week to get these guys ready to play at Mankato?
Well, the plan is to focus on ourselves because we have a number of things we can improve on. I would be a little disappointed in our players if this might be a little bit of coach talk, but there's a lot of truth behind it. You know, if we rise or fall to the level of our opponent, that's not the mentality we want to have. We're really racing against ourselves. And so for us in practice this week, I want to see us to continue to improve. I want to see us to continue to improve as position groups so that overall the picture looks better. I expect the coaching staff will have a good plan. But we don't want to be the kind of program that has to point at a national ranking of another team to have to get up, because there's a flip side of that coin. If you want to point to that for inspiration, then what are you going to do when you're playing a team that is very bad? You know what I mean? So we just want to focus on ourselves and continue to improve.
All right. Well, Coach, as always, thanks for coming on today. And Sean, thank you for joining us. And we mentioned Sean was at the top of the defensive stats this week for the Marauders. And we also talked a little bit about Preston Tesher. Now, Tesher has been a staple in the UMary defense ever since he began playing as a true freshman. And we have a little more on the Bismarck native and St. Mary's grad right now.
Slow it back down. Say, go.
For Preston Tesher, football runs in the family.
My older brothers played football in college, and they've always kind of been my role models, so I wanted to follow in their footsteps.
But Tesher hasn't just followed them.
Hey, Jersey, Jersey, Jersey.
He's made a name for himself over the last 3 years at UMary.
He's kind of almost the general of our secondary. We kind of joke around and call him a velociraptor because he never makes the same mistake twice.
That's good.
He started his career as a defensive back for the Marauders as a true freshman in 2012.
Right away as a freshman, I played really deep on defense just to make sure I wouldn't get beat deep. And then once I got more confidence in myself and my abilities, I was just able to just go and play football. And that's basically what it is trust yourself and go do what you do.
And just playing football led him to back-to-back all-conference honors as a sophomore and junior.
Ooh, you almost had to move that earth.
He finished the 2014 season with 89 tackles, second on the team.
He's a good football player. Certainly he's a good athlete, but more importantly, he's a good student. He's a good young man, does stuff the right way, has some mental toughness about him.
Hey, fly around, have fun today, boys.
And all those qualities are part of the reason he's a team captain this year.
I'm not really much of a vocal guy. I don't like to get and yell and rally and everything like that. I like to try to just lead by example, whether that's in the classroom, in the weight room, or even on the field. Just show 100% in everything you do, and then hopefully the younger guys pick up on that and do that throughout their career as well.
And with the way Tesher plays, he's setting the bar pretty high for those younger guys coming up in the Marauders secondary.
And as we said, Preston finishing the game yesterday with 8 tackles. Let's take a look at some other scores from across the Northern Sun. Minnesota Duluth ranked 9th, beat Wayne State 48-7, and Southwest Minnesota State over the Beavers by 4. Sioux Falls now 15th in the country, beating up on Crookston 45-21. Augie over the Huskies 41-27. Moorhead and Concordia played a very exciting game, and Moorhead was able to win on the last drive, very end of the game, and those highlights were actually on ESPN. Pretty interesting. Winona State topped the other Beavers in the conference 38-7, and the team UMary will face next week. Minnesota State beat Northern 27-10. Well, football wasn't the only sport with its home opener this week. Volleyball made its debut at the MAC, and we'll have those highlights coming up on Marauders Weekly. Welcome back to Marauders Weekly. Well, the Marauders volleyball players have said that this year it's a new team with a new attitude, and this week was their first chance to show that off to their fans, hosting Dickinson State at the MAC. In the first set of this one, it's Giovanna Almeida, the freshman from Brazil, comes up with an ace. That'll make it 20-11. UMary would win that first set 25-11. Now the Marauders continue to dominate the Hawks in the second set. Rachel Astrup throws one down for the kill there, and later on in the set, it's sophomore outside hitter Lauren Randall knocks one down for the kill. That would give the Marauders an 11-5 lead, and they'd go on to win that second set as well. Into the third now, Hawks trying to stay in it, but Century grad AJ Jacobs made her return to the Marauders this year and gets that one to make it 2-1. So the University of Mary wins their home opener. Final score of 3-0 over Dickinson State. And the Marauders were on the road this weekend playing 4 more games. They fell to Nebraska Kearney 3-1, but after that, it was all UMary. They beat Northwest Oklahoma State 3-2, and the next day topped Illinois Springfield by the same score, and then beat Chadron State 3-1. Well, while volleyball was returning home this week, cross country was heading to Spearfish, South Dakota for its first meet of the year. On the men's side, 2 Marauders finished in the top 5. Those were Chris Jessup finishing 3rd and Kevin Carpenter at 5th. But Black Hills State would end up beating the Marauders 21-37. But on the women's side, the Marauders finished a perfect 5 for 5, earning them a score of 15 to beat Black Hills State. Lexi Zeiss there finishing a full minute and 10 seconds before the next person. So looks like it's going to be another great season for her. Well, coming up, the Marauders wrestling team honored the memory of one of the program's biggest supporters this week. More on the Dean Walker Memorial Throwdown after the break. Well, Welcome back to Marauders Weekly. Well, in the women's soccer season opener against Montana State Billings, the Marauders finished in a 0-0 tie behind a solid defensive effort. New goaltender Bailey Wentz recorded her first career shutout in the tie, and we have more with her in this week's Meet a Marauder.
Harry Potter, probably, just because I grew up with it as a kid and I read all the books, and it's just kind of been one of those things that always just stays with me. I think it has to be Shut Up and Dance, especially because we keep yelling it in the locker room, and it's kind of just like our pump-up song, so it's just one of those things that makes you want to dance. I live off of pizza. Pizza has to be my guilt food. I'm kind of called Bay, and since that whole Bay thing blew up, it kind of just blew up in my face. So everybody kind of calls me Bay now, and they take it as everybody calling me the Bay as in boyfriend Bay. Probably Zac Efron, because of High School Musical. Just grew up loving him, and he just keeps getting hotter and hotter. I always put on my right goalkeeper glove first and then my left. I don't know why. It's just I'll take off my gloves if I put my left on first and redo it. Favorite part about being Marauders is a family, for sure. Like, all these girls are my sisters, and I don't know what I'd do without them. We have each other's backs always, and I just love it.
Unfortunately for the Marauders, things did not go as well in their second game of the year. They were on the road for a non-conference matchup against 8th-ranked Central Missouri, and they fell 7-0. They opened Northern Sun action this Tuesday at Minot State. And men's soccer was also on the road this week. They headed to Billings, Montana for 2 games. The first one, they tied South Dakota School of Mines 1-1. It went into double overtime, and Chris Noguera had the goal for the Marauders. Today, they were playing Carroll College, and that game has not finished yet. Well, wrestling season is a long way off, but Marauders head coach Adam Aho wants to make sure fans come out to support once things get rolling, and that's why he decided to organize the Dean Walker Memorial Throwdown, an outdoor intra-squad duel this past week at Municipal Ballpark. Now, the event also served as a way to honor Dean Walker, huge supporter of the Marauders wrestling program, who passed away earlier this year. Marauders wrestlers say they're hoping this duel was a way to spark interest in their growing program.
I think we have high goals, high expectations. I mean, last year none of us really finished where we wanted to, and so put in some work this summer, and we wanted to improve, and this is where we start showing our stuff, is right here, right now.
Now, the wrestling team added 11 recruits this year. Huge addition for the Marauders, so expect some improvement from them heading into their Northern Sun season this year. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Marauders Weekly, and we will see you right here next week.
Thank you for watching Marauders Weekly. Join us next Sunday as we showcase more Marauders athletics from home and away in Marauders Weekly, exclusively on NBC North Dakota Sports.